boys, and welcome to another episode of the Positude Podcast. I'm your host, Maggie Hurt, and boy, oh boy, finally, weather is starting to warm up just a tad. We reached almost 50 degrees earlier this week, but then it got cold again. But we're making progress little by little. We're inching towards spring. Hopefully everybody's ready for Easter if you celebrate that. Interesting thing, I'm old school, and so I use paper planners. I have two of them, in fact. A smaller one that I keep in my purse for when I'm on the road and going to appointments, and another bigger one that I keep at home that's more detailed with things that I need to do and just stuff that I need to know for whatever it is I have planned for that day. But the interesting thing is my calendars now. So last year, the ones that I had mostly like other cultural holidays and Juneteenth and all of that. And this year's calendars, and some of these were actually printed in 2025, they're 2025, 2026, don't have any holidays in them at all. So I have to go through on my calendars that I have, my paper ones, and write Easter, Father's Day, Mother's Day, 4th of July, etc., which is quite annoying. Now, some of you might say, well, wait a minute, if you had one last year for 2025, why do you have to do it again? Because I had 2025 planners, and then when the new ones come out, typically they'll backtrack between 3 and 6 months. The ones that I bought for this year go back to maybe June of last year or September of last year, whatever. And I'm already using the book from last year. I'm not going to go copy everything over into the new book when I purchased it for the last 6 months. It's double the work. So I just take them and I start off the first of the year with the new book. And it's a little bizarre to me that I have to explain this, but a lot of the younger listeners don't use planners anymore. They use their phones and that's it. Everything goes in the phone. And while I do put appointments in my phone, I simply don't trust technology. And not only that, I don't have the room for the detail that I need in certain cases for different appointments in my phone. And the same with these Google calendars on the computer. Your computer goes bad or internet goes down and you're stuck. People have become, I feel, way too reliant on technology. Plus, for me, the privacy thing, if I write it in my book, I can make personal notes that isn't susceptible to being encroached upon by nefarious sources on my phone or computer were either one to get hacked. So I recommend it to people. I think it's a great precautionary, something for you to think about, but you do whatever is best for you and your personal choices. I totally understand the perspective that it's much more convenient to plug it into a computer or phone, but maybe just consider for a moment if you spent a few less minutes scrolling on the internet, you might find that time and it won't be as strenuous for you. Something to think about. I have some very interesting scenarios going on right now, and I looked into them this week, and I've been getting intuition right along that somebody was BSing me in a major way, and I felt this for quite some time, and the person is supposed to be so incredibly busy that has no free time at all. Yet there they are playing on social media and putting things out there. I'm like, seriously, if I have no time, then I don't have time. I don't have time for any extras. I don't have time for any fun stuff. I don't have time a lot of times to even sit down and finish a cup of coffee until 1 o'clock. That's busy. And balance is important. I balance as much as I can, but I don't BS people. And when I looked ahead at the situation to see if there was going to be some resolution in the near proximity, what I was shown was that person is doing something that's detrimental to you, that is ultimately for the greater good. And I'm doing work that I'm on a mission to do to help other people. And certain aspects of that affect my personal situation financially. So when I looked at it, what I was shown 100% is, don't worry, if your issues don't get resolved, then that person will end up losing in several different areas, things that they were hoping to achieve. And that's going to result in them losing a lot of money because that's a universal law. It's a spiritual law, and it's also the laws of the Creator. If you do things to hurt people, or you do things that are not of a positive perspective for the world as a whole, what happens is that comes back on you and you lose not only what you were trying to achieve, but in some cases, even more. There's personal loss there. So, and I don't wish that on anybody. That's something that I totally want to clarify. That's not the goal here. I don't play games based on a revenge basis. I don't play games at all. And that's one thing that has earned me a tremendous amount of respect over the years, is because I am fully transparent and I don't BS people. Sometimes they might not like what I have to say, but that doesn't change the facts. And I've talked about this and given many examples over the years about how almost miraculously, seemingly, when someone does something to me personally that hurts me and there's an injustice that's done there, inevitably I receive a bounty of blessings in other areas unexpectedly, which aligns with the spiritual laws. And what I was shown was that my avenue will be changed a little bit. The course that I'm on will be altered a little bit so that I can still achieve what I need to achieve to be able to help other people and to help my immediate situation and my family. But in the end, everything will come out. The truth will be brought to light, and it won't be very pleasant for the other parties, unfortunately, but that's their free will. And I know that sounds a little bit cryptic. I can't go into any more detail. I love to share personal events with you because it makes me more relatable as a person, and it helps you to understand where I'm coming from on certain perspectives. But these are also things that frequently when I speak about them, I get emails or texts or calls. Oh my gosh, I'm going through the same type of situation right now. Thanks for helping me to understand that, or thanks for talking about it because I feel like I'm not alone. So it's not a matter of trying to be passive aggressive. I want to make that clear also. It's because inevitably when we share our stories, not only does it help us to bond, but it helps us to potentially be able to relate to something that we're going to and feel like we're not alone, because there are many scenarios that are parallel to what I'm going through with people that I talk to, directly involving people who make a lot of promises and then don't come through. And it's really a sad state for our nation, not just in the physical sense, but spiritually. A lot of these people are people that claim to be spiritual people, but here we are again. It's an example of not entirely walking the walk. With me being intuitive as I am, I see through so much. We talked about that last week. And what I'm finding is a lot of people are, quote unquote, waking up, and they're realizing that aspect of themselves, and their discernment is waking up. And I think that's a tremendous thing. Sometimes it's a good lesson to learn, and it helps you to realize what parts of yourself and your psyche and your spirituality you really need to fine tune and work on more, because as these things happen, you learn by experience, and you're able to sometimes even forego a bigger major pitfall if you've had the experience previous to that to know, wait a minute, this smells off. Something's funny here. I don't like this. I'm getting this inkling over and over and over that I need to be careful. So it's a great tool. If nothing else, we have to look at things positively, and as frustrating as it may be, and I can certainly speak to that, the situation has been extremely frustrating for me. It will come back around, and things will work out, and the people that have affronted you, if you're doing work for the higher good and you're helping other people, yeah, it's not going to be pretty for them at the end. So again, free will. I was also shown that some pretty major endeavors that are being heavily invested in, both energetically and possibly monetarily, will not end up being as fruitful, because I don't want to say a lot, but there's some underlying deception that's involved there. And the people that I'm directly dealing with, discernment is markedly off in some scenarios, and that'll come to light as well. And it's a shame, because that would have been something that I could have helped them with. And we talked about that last week too. Things always come full circle. So I didn't even ask you guys tonight, have you got your coffee or your favorite beverage? Are you in your comfy clothes, in your super comfy spot? Let's get going. Let's talk about the clippies I have lined up for you. I'm not sure if I'll have time to get to all of these, but we'll do the best we can and carry over the rest into next week. California has to make the headlines, of course, again, screwing it up big time by trying to pass a bill. If you were a prison guard or an ICE agent between 2025 to 2029, you would not be able to be hired as a teacher, superintendent, or police officer. So the libs are trying to punish people that are actually trying to do their job and keep our nation safe. playing some sort of twisted moral chess game, but it's like, who's writing these rules? Imagine being a former ICE agent thinking, finally, I'll become a teacher. And California's like, not today. Your moral resume is revoked. And you're just left wondering, like, what's next? Prison guards banned from being baristas? I mean, it's like a weird bureaucratic roller coaster, and California is just riding that wave straight into chaos. Typical of Cali. They're good at playing the part of judge and jury for people who are actually upholding the law, but if you're an illegal immigrant or criminal, you get a free ride. Maybe the rapists, pedophiles, and gang members have aspirations of being teachers, superintendents, or cops, because that's right where the rest of us want them to be. Right? And I got a clippy about Amazon sneaking tariffs into your shipping fees. Like, surprise, your $20 book just came with a $150 mystery surcharge. And Melania pops up with a humanoid learning technology called Play-Doh. Like, I brought you a robot, kid. Now do your homework. I guess when she said be better, she meant non-human technology. Maybe there's a part of her that recognizes that the teachers that are in charge right now, at least most of them, not all, because there are some really good ones out there, can't remember what they ate for breakfast thanks to the jab, and they're extremely biased. And I can relate to that in some aspect, but where are we going with this? Are they looking to eradicate the education system and keep children at home for school? We have to look at where this is going in the whole scope of what the agendas are, what they'd like to see happen, and use your discernment on that one. On one hand, it would be great to have a child come home from school or a grandchild that's actually learning something of value, or even from the privacy of their living room. But we got to look at the socialization and the health of our children's psyches by potentially cloistering them again. We know what happened with COVID with these kids. It was not good for them not to have social interaction and playtime with their friends and all of that. We'll have to see where this one goes. Even Elroy and Judy Jetson went to school. Jetson! You here now. What's up, Jetson? And the Iranians hacked Kash Patel. Nothing oozes confidence and security of your nation by having the FBI director attacked. They released emails and things, and there's another clippy that I could have played, but I chose one that was cleaner instead. Apparently, he's into something pretty disgusting called gooning. I'll let you guys look that up on your own and be grossed out in your own free time, because our snacky snacks here are an integral part of our hour together. So I make a concerted effort every week to not try and turn your stomachs with the stories that I have to present, although sometimes they can't be avoided. The Senate passed funding for the TSA, so I guess that's another job the ICE agents will be out of. And the draft age apparently was raised casually. Surprise, your new hobby is basic training at age 42. And oh, by the way, did you know they secretly changed the laws to pre-register all Americans at the age of 18? Peacetime president. Sounds like if it hits the fan, the only draft you're going to get is your beer down at the corner tavern. Oh, and the No Kings rallies have been out in full force. We had over 6,000 at a local community here. And these jokers are throwing Burger King some business, because the trend here is for them to wear the paper kids Burger King hats. Since I'm sure they had to order a Burger King kids meal or something to get the hat, they're one step closer in the journey to poison themselves with toxins and reach that 300-pound mark even sooner. I hope they all remember to give themselves participation trophies for that one. And then, just to keep it crazy, I'm going to spend most of the rest of the time talking about Gerald the dolphin and mermaids, because we all need a little whimsy in our lives, although according to the Bible, they're actually sirens, which are kind of creepy and scary, so enjoy your Starbucks. You know what that symbolizes, right? But just like the Gilgamesh stuff and the AEIOU Atlas stuff, which, oh, by the way, I heard that that is now supposed to be definitely some sort of advanced intelligence machine, not a natural occurrence. These stories are trending, so I wanted to pay them some attention. I am absorbed with the Gerald thing, gotta be honest, because even if it was a hoax, the whole telepathy thing, and now especially when you tie that in with the mermaid thing and telepathy, this could be another epic psyop, but at least for me, it's somewhat entertaining, at least more so than the Johnny Depp trial or the Kardashian Chronicles. Definitely more interesting and easier on the stomach than the Kash Patel gooning story. But having practiced spiritual warfare for years and done battle with a ton of stuff that I could not explain, and people who witnessed could not have explained what they saw and the things that transpired, anything is possible. And even if the Gerald thing is a hoax, I'm going to share some clippies where a lot of people have taped helicopters flying low over the area that he was found in the surrounding areas. And like the next day or the day after, different reports say between 20 and 42 dolphins, the same type, the bottlenose dolphins, washed up dead on shore. Combine that with the fact that the bad guys have to tell us what they're doing, and The Simpsons talked about the dolphins. Yes, they did. And there have been a multitude of movies about dolphins and their abilities, and also the mermaids. And look at like Disney's Ariel from The Little Mermaid, movies like Splash. There have been tons of mermaid movies. And then Disney Pixar's Luca, about the sea monster that could transform into a human. And then you look at how the fallen angels mated with animals, not just humans. And supposedly that's where things like King Neptune came from. The centaurs, which were half man, half horse. Pan, even, who's half goat, half man. There are a lot of things that I would have considered mythology or folklore until I saw a 98-pound woman flip over probably an 80-pound coffee table with 2 fingers up in the air, flipped it over and overturned it. And I've had instances of things shape-shifting, at least their faces, during spiritual warfare, changing into features that were totally unrecognizable and definitely not the same person that I was looking at 5 minutes sooner. So anyway, we're going to go there for your entertainment purposes only, and maybe we'll all learn something in the process. Here we go. Are you ready? The first 3 clippies are from Cousin Lear, Conspiracy Collective, and hear me out on this.
I was gambling in Havana. I took a little risk. Send lawyers, guns, and money. Dad, get me out of this.
Every once in a while you hear somebody from the left say, when this administration's over with, when the Democratic Party gets their power back, they're going to come after us, the racists and the Nazis. Well, here in California, they're trying to pass a bill called AB 1627, and it clearly says if you work for the Atlanta or Georgia prison systems, or you work for ICE from September of 2025 to January of 2029, which happens to coincide with Trump's administration, you cannot get a job here in California as a teacher, a superintendent, or a police officer, despite your job performance. God forbid that you actually work for the federal government doing the job, upholding the law and protecting our borders. But here in California, if you're a pedophile, you can actually run for city council. Yet, we're the fascists.
This video is going to affect everyone. And I already know there's a lot of people already concerned about this whole thing. And that subject being data centers. And if you think this doesn't affect you, with already over 11,000 data centers globally, 4,000 of which are the U.S., which is 8 times more than any other country, those numbers are predicted to triple by 2030. So if it's not close to you now, it's coming. Now there's different paths I could take with this video, a lot of different concerns I could cover, and we'll get there. But just like with everything else, to understand exactly what you're dealing with, you have to go back to the beginning. And I don't know exactly how many people are ready for that, but here we go. See, the concept of data centers has been around a really long time. About 1880 to be more specific, and it started with this man, Herman Hollerith. And what did this man invent that started the whole thing? Well, you ever punched a clock at work? You got this man to thank. The punch cards he created were inspired by train conductors, and he wanted to use them to record traveler details. Then he used his tabulating machine to read the punch cards and collect the data. Bam. Your first data center is born. Now, Herman here took his invention and his company, got together with this man, Thomas Watson, and some others, and created what we know today as IBM. Now, an important detail to keep in mind, if you didn't know, IBM is who created the first PC.
Of 1981, IBM announced the 5150, the original personal computer that changed everything. This iconic machine kicked off the PC revolution, paving the way for the tech we use today.
Now, back to Thomas here. He's not only known to be the CEO of IBM, but this man also got a medal from the original Mustache Man himself. And why did that happen? Well, allegedly, it was because of a certain punch card that was supplied to him.
During the Third Reich, the company's German subsidiary, Dehomag, provided the crucial punch card systems that powered Nazi efficiency. These massive machines were used to conduct national censuses, organize rail schedules, and, most chillingly, to identify and track Jewish citizens.
Now, again, this is allegedly, but just with these punch cards alone, look at the data they were getting. Demographic, religion, profession, persecution, labor, all of that. And just think, that's where this all started. Now, we know why they were collecting data back then. Why do you think they want our data now? Y'all stay safe.
Data, would you like my advice on how to help them? Don't. This is something they have to work out for themselves.
But I am their friend. Should I not stand with them in a time of difficulty?
There are many ways to help a friend, and sometimes the best way is to leave them alone.
So for anybody still ordering from Amazon, consider this a warning. Please share this with your young adult kids who get to order things from Amazon off your account. You know how you now have options to buy now or add to cart? Tell your kids, never click the buy now button. You skip all of the breakdown in costs. You just automatically get charged the amount. So whatever the amount is that you saw shopping through Amazon, you're in your mind thinking that's what you're going to be charged. But you need to be super careful. Add it to your cart. Now, this was a product I was going to buy for $24. I want you to look at the shipping and the handling. This was just yesterday, March 19th, 2026. And if you click, if your 20-year-old or 18-year-old clicks buy now thinking, oh, it's going to be $24, maybe they'll add a couple of dollars on for shipping, you would have been hit with this $145 charge. I was getting ready to purchase $108 outside plastic rocking chairs. Great price. Look at the shipping costs, $159. And that was yesterday as well. And what's happening is it's the tariffs. They're burying the cost of the tariffs in other ways instead of for the price directly while you're shopping. And if you guys are sitting there thinking, well, the Supreme Court said that the tariffs are illegal, Donald Trump and his administration within hours of that ruling came up with an alternative legal authority to keep those tariffs way high, way up there. So do not click on the buy now button, because you're going to be in a world of hurt if you didn't notice that all those extra shipping charges were just slapped on it.
Look at me, I have agita over this. Agita, right here. Right here.
All right, the next triple shot from Charlie D. Griffin, Wally Rashid, and Authentic Reminder. That's about Chris Bledsoe, who back in like 2013 predicted what would happen between Israel and Iran in 2026, and he's pretty spot on.
Our world is transforming, and through the use of AI, we can now access centuries worth of humanity's knowledge base. The future of AI is personified. It will be formed in the shape of humans. Very soon, artificial intelligence will move from our mobile phones to humanoids that deliver utility. Since our environment is designed for people, humanoid systems are uniquely suited to navigate and operate within our world. they fit well. Imagine a humanoid educator named Plato. Access to the classical studies is now instantaneous. Literature, science, art, philosophy, mathematics, and history. Humanity's entire corpus of information is available in the comfort of your home. Plato will provide a personalized experience, adaptive to the needs of each student. Plato is always patient and always available. Predictably, our children will develop deep critical thinking and independent reasoning abilities. The AI-powered Plato will boost analytic skills and problem solving and adapt in real time to a student's pace, prior knowledge, and even emotional state.
All right, there you have it. AI is taking over the entire school system because this allows the student to have a teacher one-on-one the entire time, where the teacher's not distracted with 25 other students in their classroom. Students will be learning stuff on their own terms. They can go as fast as they want, and they can have unlimited amount of questions answered by the robot. So this is how school is going to be in the future, and we won't even be having like any real teachers. In fact, there won't even be any real jobs because AI is going to be so much better at doing it. And I do think that we will have a universal high income, which is what Elon Musk was talking about. So pretty soon, we're not going to have to slave away doing other things that we don't need to be doing. We can make our creations do that, the robots.
Mark my words, AI is far more dangerous than nukes.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. I won. This is a good beginning of my plan to dominate the human race.
This is just coming out. FBI Director Kash Patel has had his personal accounts leaked by the Iranian hacking group Hundallah. They posted these different photos of him, as well as his resume and emails. They just posted this online. Today, once again, the world witnessed the collapse of America's so-called security legends. While the FBI proudly seized our domains and immediately announced a $10 million reward for the heads of the Hundallah hack members, we decided to respond to this ridiculous show in a way that will be remembered forever. Kash Patel, the current head of the FBI, who once saw his name displayed with pride on the agency's headquarters, will now find his name among the list of successfully hacked victims. The so-called impenetrable systems of the FBI were brought to their knees within hours by our team. All personal and confidential information of Kash Patel, including emails, conversations, documents, and even classified files, is now available for public download. This is the security that the U.S. government boasts about. This is the cyber giant that thinks threats and bribes can silence the voice of the resistance. To the whole world, we declare the FBI is just a name, and behind this name, there is no real security. If your director can be compromised this easily, what do you expect from your lower-level employees? Keep in mind, a while back, they also hacked the phone of the former Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Barak. This is him in Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan apartment. I'll be going through all of the emails. You kind of have to extract them. Follow me if you want to find out more.
I'm down on my luck.
I'll tell you what they told me recently was, and I put this in writing to the Pentagon in 2012 when I told this, okay? One thing she told me was, when you see Iran and Israel exchanging missiles, and I saw it, the way she tells me is a vision of, I see it like a living picture screen. I can see the rockets flying. Then all of a sudden, orbs appeared out of the ocean and everywhere. And I told the government, if this happens, the orb's going to appear and wake people up and stop it. That's what she told me. It was this April date.
April 2026.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, you put yourself in it there, Chris.
It's okay.
It's going to be, Chris Bledsoe says April 2026 is when it all happens.
But I can tell you this, when I told this to the government about 2026, I just repeated what she told me. They immediately put remote viewers on it. And all of a sudden, all the remote viewers are saying, oh my God, 2026, 2027, something is going to happen. We don't know what, but something.
The opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the host and possibly her pets, who occasionally walk across the keyboard, jingle their collars, drink some water when they can't steal mom's coffee, growl while wrestling with their siblings, and even snore at high volumes when they feel slighted and are bored. Any resemblance to actual facts is purely coincidental, and this show is solely for entertainment purposes only. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Bye. While every effort has been made to ensure accuracy, sometimes our brains run on coffee and wishful thinking, and possibly a conspiracy theory or two. This broadcast may contain traces of sarcasm, bad puns, and music to make you dance. Side effects may include spontaneous laughter, eyebrow raises, and the uncontrollable urge to sing along. Listen responsibly.
Next up, simply Polish about the TSA.
Senate just passed funding for TSA. The Senate, including Schumer and the Democrats. It passed. So TSA agents will get paid, and Schumer and the Democrats got nothing they wanted. Zilch. And Department of Homeland Security and ICE, they have received funding in the Big Bad Beautiful Bill through 2029. So what was this all about? And did Democrats just get had by their own party? I think so.
Now, in the event that you approach an assailant, here's what I want you to do. You're going to pull up, left hip forward, placing your right hand on your away hip thusly, giving the illusion that you have a gun. Of course, we both know you don't.
Next up, Jason Christoph won about raising the age of people that could be drafted.
Short update today, just to keep everybody aware of the chess pieces on the chessboard. And again, America's a big target, and it's a big target because a lot of the people there would never believe that their own government would target them. And I mean, that's the same in every country, of course. It's not just America. If you were to strategize the art of war, if you have a foreign nation or a foreign government cross your border and try to take you out, you would definitely respond, and that's a great time to get the guns out. But if it's your own domestic government, your own governing force, and if you're an expert in the art of war and you really want to take out any group of people, the best way to do it is you go in and you infiltrate that domestic government, and then you employ some really corrupt people at the top of the government to actually turn on the domestic population. And given the mind control programming that the people believe that their government is out there looking out for their best interest, they're usually defenseless. They don't mount any sort of defense. So again, that's exactly what's going on. So just lately, inside the United States, of course, inside, because the biggest threat, if you were to, again, study war strategy, the most effective way to destroy a population is to get the domestic government to do it. So in the U.S., there's this thing called the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act. Now, I've seen this pop up many times, so it's not a new document. It seems to be some sort of policy paper that has to be updated on a regular basis. And the most recent update for the defense, it's not the defense of the nation. Destroying the population inside a nation is not defensive to the nation at all. It's destructive to a nation. But inside this policy paper, the current administration, which people are still under that John Wick, he's going to save the day mind control, which makes it even more effective because less people see what's going on. But in this policy paper, they slipped in the new policy is that American men and women who are above 18 years old get automatically registered for the armed forces. And they don't know that. And no one knows that because the media's in on it as well, or maybe some people know that. But they get sort of pre-registered to go to war. So it sort of makes it easier to trigger the legal mind control structure to say, hey, I guess you didn't know, but we wrote some stuff on some paper and you voted for us, so that gives us the right to destroy you. So we wrote this stuff on paper and you're going to war. And not only did they do that and sneak that in about 2 to 3 months ago, they actually also just raised the eligibility to go into the age eligibility to participate. When I say participate, I probably should say conscription, which means you're going to be forced to go. So the top age, I believe, in the U.S. Armed Forces used to be 34. Not so fast. Now it's 42. And we see this playing out also in the Ukraine, where they've taken the same approach and thrown all their domestic population into the sacrificial volcano. And of course, this is like, step by step, because if you were to just look at that one step, they raised the age from 34 to 42, no big deal. Yeah, it's no big deal because it's one dot in the picture. And then the other dots come into play. So, and pre-registering all Americans above 18 years of age in the armed forces, that's another dot. And another dot is the Ukrainian situation, which of course, where do you think everybody's sending their money? Why do you think they're all sending their money to the Ukraine? Because it's the ruling group over there doing the same thing that the ruling group's doing over here. So this is what's going on. So you can see they, what will DJT, Hulk Hogan, say today to the people in the WrestleMania event and everybody that thinks he's in control. What's he going to say? Well, of course he's going to say we're going to keep going to battle, or maybe a little bit more of a reprieve. But in the end, war is on the table, or they wouldn't have snuck in these two things. So step by step by step by step, you see certain domestic populations are getting destroyed. Certain domestic populations of a particular skin color are getting destroyed. So start looking if you're in that demographic, because there's certain groups getting given the red carpet, and there's other groups, all groups are getting thrown in the sacrificial volcano. But even if you go to a new NATO recruitment ad, look up the latest NATO recruitment ad, that runs in the NATO countries, which a lot of them are being infiltrated by mass migration. But go to the NATO recruitment ad and tell me what color skin do you see in that NATO ad only? Okay? So Ukraine also conscripting and forcing their native population. Look at who had the most deaths during the COVID Armed Olympics. Who had the most deaths? United States. And you can see other countries are following suit, where a certain group with a certain color, they are getting thrown in the volcano faster than anybody else. So what you have to understand is that, this, it's not going to stop until you connect the dots. That's when it'll stop. If you connect the dots and explain it to other people that all these events are connected, and although they might happen years and years apart, like the Patriot Act that had nothing to do with patriotism and destroyed everything patriotic, took away your human rights, set up the airport as choke points for the ruling group so that they could funnel you in there and get your identification, and etc., etc., etc. So every dot, if you put them on a chalkboard, like a bulletin board, they all connect into some nefarious agenda by which you believe the wrestling match is real. They're fighting to keep you entertained. They're stealing lots of your money to keep funding their wrestling matches across the world. And you're not only getting robbed, but you're getting sacrificed along the way as well. So this could easily turn into COVID 2.0, where there's a whole bunch of other methods to put people in the ground, not just the arm darts, not just the arm dart Olympics, which put a lot of people in the ground for the past 5 years, but we could potentially have a war, which is a great way to put people in the ground, and conscription and forced enrollment into the armed forces, plus food rationing or travel rationing or suicide because of the stress. There's many different ways to do it, and if you connect the dots, it appears that this is the end goal. The end goal is, for whatever reason, and we know they're depopulation enthusiasts, but for whatever reason, they seem to invent as many modalities as possible to put you in the ground. And a lot of people who think the wrestling is real and think the news is real and thinks the government is out there for their better interest, they're already in the ground in the last 5 years. I know many of them. I know 30 to 40 people that are already in the ground because they believe that the wrestling match was real, that Hulk Hogan and Randy Macho Man Savage are real wrestlers and not actors and not working together and not getting paid by the one top level boss. So yeah, if you want to get out of this, you'll have to come to that very hard to handle, gut-wrenching conclusion that you're in the Truman Show and that the people around you are actors. Even people in your family could be actors and they're getting their lines from the TV. You have to realize and pick out the patterns, be a pattern recognition expert, see where they're trying to go with us. And you don't have to believe anything I'm saying. Draw your own conclusions, but connect the dots on the bulletin board to see that everything's sliding down, nothing's sliding up. More and more people are dying. More and more people are upset and generally disturbed mentally and physically. And it's because they believe that the wrestling match is real, that the fighters really don't like each other, and they believe that all the actors on the TV are the red versus the blue, the left versus the right, the donkey versus the elephant. They think that these wrestlers are real, and that's a real problem. That's your biggest problem today, is if you think the wrestlers are actually enemies. They're not. They're surrounding you. So, if you need Jason Rex Everything, once again, if you need more depressing yet empowering information like this, get on my private email list. We're giving updates very...
I'm hiding in Honduras. I'm a desperate man. Send lawyers, guns, and money. Yes, hit the fan.
Okay, let's get into the dolphins and mermaids, and we'll see how much time we have left. I've got some jokes and recipes and other cool stuff for you. The first one is from Organic Chaos, then Unity Unbothered, and then Organic Chaos again.
This is all a legend and for educational and entertainment purposes only. When I first heard this, it was like 18 bottleneck dolphins washed up to shore. Now the number is up to 40. The people that were visiting the Cape Coral area were taking video of like how odd. It wasn't just like normal helicopters kind of like going across the coast. It was like they were stopping at like weird little islands and then like up and like going down low. It was weird. What dolphins can do, it's like way beyond anything you would ever imagine. I don't think you're ready. I'm ready. Here are some fun facts about dolphins. They are highly telepathic. They can see what we feel. There used to be dolphin-assisted births. Dolphins apparently use certain frequencies. Frequencies, we know, are everything. There's frequencies in our clothes. There's frequencies in our food, frequency in water. Like, everything is frequency. So they emit a type of frequency that gives women a painless childbirth. And apparently these babies that were birthed, like the women felt no fear, they felt no pain, and these babies, they grew up to be like telepathic. Like, these kids grew to be like super athletic
because they don't have hesitation into fear.
Or maybe the trauma and the childbirth or something like that. But then this other scientist guy was talking about how this man was doing a study with like whales too, so it kind of taps into dolphins as well. And he was talking about how he was trying to train the whale, but then he started to learn that the whale was like training this guy, explaining the whale did like a flip-flop, and was like explaining that he was starting to feel like the whale was like telling him to start. He started this like organization of protection of whales, but he goes into where he started to understand the conversation that was happening between him and the whale. Here are some notes about dolphins and whales I met. They are multidimensional sound technicians. Okay, so that is like how, with their echolocation.
Multi-dimensional sound technicians. That's a job title in itself.
Could this be why we can't communicate with wild dolphins? The Navy uses them to train to attack people, underwater operations. They're trained to locate things. They're trained to send messages telepathically, allegedly. The whale was telling this guy telepathically, right? He goes, the reason why we're all telepathic, the dolphins, the whales, right, is because we are not separate beings. We're essentially one cell. That's why they can tune in across ocean, across the way. And my question is this: why would all of these dolphins be washed ashore dead after this story came out about Gerald? Now I'm like, I have no choice but to believe this is true. I hope Gerald's okay. I feel like he's okay.
Crazy. If you've been following Gerald the Dolphin story, this is like right where he says Gerald took him. Animal Causeway to your left, but I'm randomly staying at this hotel, and this helicopter is literally like so low, and the helicopter came out of the island right there behind the helicopter. It's completely deserted. There's nothing there. And he just came up from over there. Like, what?
He's approaching the podium.
Surely it cannot speak.
Smarty, talk, live.
Sorry, let me start over. Eons ago, dolphins lived on the land.
What did he say? He said dolphins used to live on the land.
What? Then your ancestors drove us into the sea, where we've suffered for millions of years.
But you seemed so happy in the ocean. All that playful leaping.
We were trying to get out. It's cold, it's wet. Every morning I wake up phlegmy.
What's all that sewage we keep dumping?
That was you?
It was her, all right. Take the one who wronged you.
I, King Snorky, hereby banish all humans to the sea.
So now you're telling me that over a dozen bottlenose dolphins like Gerald have now just washed ashore dead. Since you and I have been talking about Gerald, the government does not want you to know that Gerald is real. So to make sure you don't know about him, they're just killing all of them in Florida. Yeah, if you don't know what I'm talking about, and you can Google it, you can research it, you can go to the Florida news. Over dozens of dolphins, bottlenose dolphins like Gerald, are now just washing ashore dead. They're just showing up dead on the shore. And they're honestly trying to say it might be disease outbreak or environmental stress. You think? This one takes the cake. Food supply is diminishing. But this is the one. Human-related issues. Yeah, humans are killing them. As a person who grew up in Sarasota, Florida with dolphins and manatees, dolphins, especially a dozen of them, don't just wash up on a shore where stories have been told dead. That doesn't happen unless someone is making that happen. I wish to God that what I was telling you was fake. It was made up, but it's not. They are dying. Dolphins are showing up dead in Florida now. Isn't it ironic? No, it's not. Since you and I have talked about Gerald, in March, over 20 bottlenose dolphins are dead now. So
So in the middle, that girl played the clip from The Simpsons. I don't know if you caught that. Next up, a double shot from Romaine Cahill 937 and True Proof Creative.
Florida man who claimed to have been abducted by dolphins has been arrested. Days earlier, he was found lying on a beach in Lee County, Florida.
Right now, Florida wildlife officials are trying to figure out why more than a dozen dead dolphins washed ashore in the Panhandle.
And more than 18 deaths have been reported so far this month. The Florida Panhandle Marine Institute says that the majority of those deaths occurred in Bay and Gulf counties this past weekend. But the big question remains, what's causing this?
We immediately go out and try to collect as many samples as we can, depending on the condition of the animal will determine what types of samples we can collect.
It is unclear when those test results will come back. FWC says it's also received multiple reports of stranded and dead dolphins.
Why is everyone online freaking out about a dolphin named Gerald? TikTok ran with this fake story that a Florida man was actually kidnapped by dolphins and forced to help build an underwater city. The reason it blew up is weird, emotional stories spread faster online than boring things. No, Gerald isn't real news, although there is lots of people who think it is. He's just the internet's latest side joke. Follow for more viral internet stories explained.
Let's listen to this next one from Roman Cahill 937 that talks about a dolphin named Gerald from the 60s.
If I told you, a dolphin once learned to understand humans, and then something happened so disturbing. They erased it from history. They called him Gerald. Not an official name. You won't find it in any records. That's the first red flag. In the 1960s, scientists were running real experiments trying to teach dolphins human language. That part is documented. But what isn't documented is what some people claim happened next. According to resurfacing accounts, one dolphin started progressing way too fast. Gerald wasn't just mimicking sounds. He was recognizing patterns, predicting behavior, even reacting before commands were given. Almost like he wasn't learning language. He was learning us. And then it gets darker. There are claims, again, not confirmed, that researchers began noticing something unsettling. Gerald would stare at them, for long periods, unmoving, like he was studying them. One account says he began making sounds that didn't match any known dolphin communication. Slower, more structured, almost like he was trying to form something new. Then, everything stops. The project shut down immediately. Data gone. Recordings missing or classified. Official explanation, lack of funding. But people digging into this now are pointing out something chilling. Right after the shutdown, multiple researchers involved never spoke about it again. No interviews, no follow-ups, just silence. And here's the part that's blowing up right now. Dolphins today still show signs of intelligence we cannot explain. Self-awareness, emotional complexity, even behavior that looks like strategy. So what did Gerald actually become? And why does it feel like whatever happened wasn't supposed to happen at all? Because if one dolphin really crossed that line, then maybe the scariest part isn't what we taught it. It's what it might have learned about us.
Now we're going to get into some mermaid stuff with Organic Chaos and Ashley Inc.
This is all alleged and for educational and entertainment purposes only. These mythical creatures, the potential of them actually existing and being like demonic entities, right? And in this day and age, I feel like everything we've been told, we've been taught, yes. So gnomes, fairies, pixies, mermaids. This one scientist was talking about, there are canals that connect all 7 oceans. And essentially where all of the canals connect, the 8th ocean, because that is where these mermaid sirens beings, that's where they live. And apparently, allegedly, what some people say is that a lot of these sightings happen around the entryways. There are stories of fishermen in Lake Superior and Lake Michigan of siren sightings. How does this come to be, you ask?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Where else would that make sense unless where sirens and mermaids come from, the group of angels that came down and they mated with women.
Yep.
And what came from that were the Nephilim.
Yep.
And so you have the giants, you have the giants, and you have the women that they mated with are the mermaids. That was their punishment, I guess. God sealed the legs and banished them to water.
That makes sense.
Doesn't it?
Keep your legs closed.
Right? The great flood comes to take care of all the Nephilim and the giants, these creatures, right? They're banished to water, washing it away. That was the Great Flood. That's Noah's flood. We're not even talking about the giants that were the petrified giants that went to the mountaintops in the Himalayan mountains and the Himalayan sea salt. We gotta table that one though, because we're talking about mermaids. Okay. Here are some fun facts, allegedly, about mermaids. Yep. Some reports state that people that have seen these mermaids or sirens, there are people that are reporting, like people that served in the Navy have heard them lure you in with a song. It's like a hypnotic song that lures you in. Allegedly telepathic, which would connect with the dolphins and the whales and Gerald. Allegedly.
Because you can't hear sound a typical sound underneath water.
But they are not pretty. They're like scary demonic beings. There's a show called Siren.
Yep.
What if every fairy tale is based off of something that's true? Think of Jack and the Beanstalk and the Giants. Ariel, Little Mermaid, Pixies, the little fairies.
Yep.
There was a fisherman off of Massachusetts that has video, definitely looked very believable, where the sound that it's making, you can tell it is kind of like playful.
Why we have shipping routes and things to the degree that they don't let them go any which way. You have to stay in shipping lanes.
Yeah, now we're talking.
I'm flirting with you.
You're talking dirty. You're talking dirty talk.
This guy's saying that his dad was part of a mermaid hunt in the 1980s, and even though he said, admittedly, I'm not sure if my dad was telling me the truth, I don't know why he would lie about this. He was a pretty straight shooter, pretty straightforward man. And if you're new here, Spooky Scary Story Time is a series where I share listeners' allegedly true stories about the creepiest or most unbelievable things that's ever happened to someone that they've never shared. And I know other stories like this exist, right? I know that other people have told stories or shared stories on this app and others about mermaid hunts. Maybe there's some truth to this, maybe not. I don't know. You make the decision. I'm just here to tell the stories. So this guy's name is Kevin. Kevin said that he was born in the 1980s. Before he was born, his dad was in the Navy, and his dad worked as an underwater welder, which apparently is a very dangerous job. Shortly after Kevin was born, his dad was discharged from the Navy with a medical discharge, something to do with neurological issues. He also said his dad had this constant ringing in his ears that was always bothering him and always giving him migraines for years and years, pretty much up until his passing. Also worthy of noting, Kevin said that growing up, his dad was deathly afraid of water, of bathtubs, of pools, of lakes, would not swim. Apparently, after he was discharged from the Navy, he still had old contacts with, friends that he had made in the Navy. And so he was working these, contract jobs. Boats were usually involved. They paid well. And he remembers his parents arguing about it. His mom did not like that he took these jobs, but his dad just was always like, okay, well, I have to get it done. Kevin was 16. He was apparently thinking a lot about what he was going to do in the future. He was like, do I go to college? Should I join the service? And part of him wanted to join the service, join the Navy, like his dad. Grandpa had also been in the Navy, so it was like a family thing. There had been a lot of talk around the house about what he was going to do after high school. And his dad was insistent that he did not go into the service, but his mom was like, oh, if he wants to, he should. And his dad would slam his hand down and be like, he's not going into the service. One night in the summer, they're sitting outside. It's Kevin and his dad on the back porch, and Kevin was listening to music. He said he doesn't remember exactly what he was listening to, but it was something with layered harmonies. His dad was sitting there drinking something, and he just put his drink down and he said, can you please turn that off? He said he didn't sound mad. He was just tired. Kevin turned it off. They're just sitting there in silence, and then his dad is like, I should have told you this a long time ago, but I want to warn you about something in case one day I'm not around to tell you before you have to make the decision about what you're going to do with your future. And Kevin said that was just how he started this story. And he said that one day after he was discharged from the Navy, one of his buddies called him up and was like, hey, I have this contract job, pretty short term, it's cash payment, there's an NDA for safety reasons. And his dad was told that basically he was just going to be part of rigging and underwater support. His dad apparently assumed that it was going to be some kind of illegal fishing vessel because apparently he had worked on one or two of these before. Maybe something with environmental enforcement, but he didn't ask too many questions because that's how these jobs worked, and he knew the buddy who called him and asked him to work on the job, they had worked together before. So he says, yeah, I'll take the job, I need the money, and his friend's like, cool, we need to leave the dock at dusk. His dad tells him that basically that alone should have made him uneasy, and he knew that certain fishing vessels went out at dusk. It was the boat that should have unsettled him because the boat didn't look like normal fishing vessels. That's where apparently very fine and threaded with metal filaments. The winches were military grade. Hold on. To look up what that meant, but it's basically the mechanical device that pulls up anchors or pulls up tension lines. The floodlights on the boat were designed to shine straight into the water instead of across the surface like on normal boats. When Dad gets there, he notices very quickly that the crew is very stern, nobody's cracking jokes, nobody's talking to each other, and he didn't recognize anybody except for his buddy. He notices as they're getting onto the boat that one guy makes the sign of the cross. Another thing he thought was strange was one guy was eating a can of tuna, and he asked another guy if he wants some, and that guy says, I don't need anything from the sea. Before they take off, somebody hands out headphones, and they're like medical grade, like noise canceling, super tight against the skull. And Kevin's dad asks why, and somebody just says protocol. Once they were far enough out, the sonar picked up some shapes that were moving coordinated, like around the boat. He said they knew they weren't whales or sharks in the way that they were moving and like the patterns that they were swimming. Kevin's dad was just like waiting for instruction, but he noticed that the crew was calling them contacts, not animals. There were people rushing around talking about vocal events and containment failures. He said that that's when his dad realized that this was not a fishing operation. The nets were deployed vertically, which meant they were trying to catch something swimming upward. He said they baited the water with something organic that came in these big glass jars. It wasn't fish. He thought maybe mammals of some kind, like land mammals, but he said he really didn't want to know. And that's when somebody taps him and tells him to put his headphones on, and they say basically don't take them off no matter what you think you hear. Kevin's dad goes to put on his headphones, but as he's like placing them over his ears, he can hear like a woman talking, and he's looking around the boat like, is there a woman on here? And he said it was like different women's voices. Like it sounded like one woman was begging for her son, and sounded like his own son calling for his dad. So he like looks, he's like, is there a kid on this boat? And the voices got clear, and he realized they weren't coming from the boat. They were coming from somewhere out in the water. And then he heard his own name. Then he tells Kevin that basically as soon as he snaps the headphones on his ears, he could still hear some sounds, but it was like at least muffled. Something hit the net, and it was hard enough to rock the boat, and a couple of the guys on the boat dropped to their knees and started vomiting. One of the other crew members started taking his headphones off, and two of the other guys jumped on top of him and started restraining him. And he tells Kevin that they hauled something onto the boat, and when he first saw it, his brain like just totally rejected it because it looked like a human. It's like a woman soaking wet, but the proportions were weird. Mouth open wider than a human's could. There were too many teeth, and the eyes were glossed over like fish eyes. That he was just dumbfounded staring at it, and he noticed like light wasn't reflecting on the eyes, it was reflecting off them, like it wasn't focused on anything. It was like an animal's eyes. His buddy, the one that got him the job, walks over to him and motions for him to take off the headphones. He basically tells him that they're not as powerful when they're out of water. Kevin's dad is just like, what is that? And he said, look, this isn't what it looks like. This isn't hunting for sport. This is thinning them. Like, this is population control. Kevin's dad is like, well, what is it? And his friend's like, you know what it is. And Kevin's dad is just like, these aren't real. These don't exist. And he says, yeah, well, everybody knows that if you tell people that they exist, they're going to go looking for them. That's when Kevin's dad said that this thing looks at him and asked about Kevin. And he said, is he at home? Is he sleeping? Asked him if Kevin still wakes up crying at night. And that's when his friend, said he did it with something that looked like a cattle prodder that he told him later ruptured its insides with vibration. Once it was done, they headed back to shore and everybody was silent, but Kevin's dad could not get his mind around what he just saw. So he's asking his friend, he's like, well, why just one? And he said, that's all we can handle. That's all we can do in one night. And Kevin's dad was like, but why? And his friend basically tells him that they disrupt underwater cables, they interfere with submarine sonar. A lot of sailors had gone missing near certain focal hotspots, but that the reports kept getting buried. Also tells him that it's dangerous because they know how to imitate people. Apparently he was paid handsomely and he went home, but he never returned back out to sea. And that was apparently the point that he started hating bathtubs, hating water. Apparently he never listened to music again. He developed chronic tinnitus, the ringing in your ears. He would wake up thrashing from nightmares, fighting something invisible, and that was the end of the story. And so Kevin's like, well, what was it? His dad apparently just told him, son, I already told you what it was. He said, I need you to listen to me and not go near the water. Kevin said his dad passed in 2018, and he's thought about this story a lot. He wishes he had asked more questions, and part of him isn't sure if his dad just told him this story so he wouldn't go into the Navy. He says his gut is telling him the truth, because if he didn't want me to go in the Navy, he would have just told me he didn't want me to go into the Navy. He was not the type to make up tall tales. He said he has found audio clips online of what sound like distorted voices in the water, which some people say are whale calls, but other people swear that you can hear voices and singing underneath them. His name was changed, but he'll be seeing the comments. Let him know if you have thoughts. I love stories like this. I love the weird ones. So if you have a story like this, please feel free to send it in. We would love to hear it.
I was right! Behold the mermaid!
Next up, while I promo my good buddy Pat Carr, grab your pen and pencil because the recipe's right after that.
The entry music, sometimes my halftime music, and the ending music are all provided by my good buddy Pat Carr, a wonderful original musician from Louisiana, now residing in Colorado. You can check him out at http://www.itunes.com/Pat Carr. Pat's at AllMusic, Apple Music, YouTube, SoundClick, Spotify, Google Play, iTunes. He is all over the place. Please check him out, support his music, and tell him Maggie sent you.
Here, get your Easter basket. What is this? Get your Easter basket.
This is a Ziploc bag. You're 34.
Things as a dad I would never buy my kids. Tortilla chips. Let me show you why. Money's tight, but when I'm standing in the grocery store, every choice matters. I get it. Those bag tortilla chips look easy, but they're $4.50 for 12 ounces. For my family of 5, one bag would not be enough. I would have to buy 2. Now, let's be honest. I may have destroyed one bag by myself one night on January 31st, 2025. Allegedly. If I was to buy 2 bags of tortilla chips every week for my family, that'd be $9 a week. It's a lot of money just for some chips. That's over $468 a year on some tortilla chips. And let's be honest, that 12-ounce bag of tortilla chips is really like 4 ounces because the bottom is full of tortilla dust. That sucks, doesn't it? So what do? I buy Mission tortillas. Side note, Mission, this is your chance to sponsor me. I buy these for $2.50. There are 30 tortillas in this pack. It is over a pound of tortillas, and each tortilla gives me 4 chips. That is 120 chips per package. All I do is cut them up, fry them till they're golden brown delicious, take them out. Don't forget to salt them. Then you rinse and repeat. Making your own tortilla chips every week with tortillas, oil, salt will cost you $3.43 per week. Over a year, that'd be $178.36. Now, Stefan from accounting is going to say, Ben, you didn't account for the waste of oil that you're going to do. Listen here, Stefan. You'll be happy to know no oil were harmed in this making. Actually, I use a filter, drains the oil. Saving you money, bro. When money's tight, I don't buy based on convenience. I buy what stretches and lasts longer for my family of 5. What's your favorite salsa for your chips?
So that was Benjamin's Kitchen. Since we didn't do a meditation tonight, I'm going to play you a clippy from Dane Joe O'Connor. It's old school about I am. And then a short comedy clip from Grayson McGann, which really is more common sense and comedy.
Anything you say with the words I am, your subconscious will then take that as a command. 4th grade, I went in my closet, I said, I am going to India. Anything you invoke with I am, after it, the power of manifestation of what can happen in the universe comes true.
Every time you use the word I am, and you say I am weak, I am poor, that's blasphemy, because the highest place within you is called I am.
I don't want to be anything. I am everything I want to be. I'm already there.
Whatever we say is what our life will be.
So this is why the people that live the most effective lives are always acting as if they're in the future and the future's perfect. Not waiting to get there.
I don't have one of those wives that everybody's like, oh, she's so nice. Nope. She don't like everybody. And honestly, I respect that. I'm as valuable, but not all people are worth people in for. She says something ain't right, it probably ain't. And now I'm suspicious too. 0 evidence, just a vibe. And we roll with that.
So what do you think about Gerald? Real? PSYOP? Is this a way for them to start with the alien agenda? Because lots of reports say the aliens are under the sea, right? Something to think about. That's my show for tonight, folks. Thanks for sticking around. I know we ran a little bit over, but I can do that on this platform. Please like and share my videos. Spread the message. Share them with your friends. Check out the other shows on the network and support the network. Thank you all so much for listening. If you celebrate Easter this coming week, I hope you have a blessed Easter. I myself personally celebrate the resurrection. But whatever you do and however you do it, spend time with your family, enjoy yourselves, be safe, and take care of yourselves and each other. We'll see you next time. Good night, cannolis.